Acrobat, Illustrator, Creative Cloud. If you don't recognize the name of at least two of those tools, you're in the wrong room, so please leave. Hang your head in shame. Tools allow us to focus on doing what we do best, creating good games and not having to worry about the mechanics of how the sausage is made. So to show us how we can leverage the tools, here's Tom. Go ahead.
Nice to meet you guys. Welcome. I'm Tom KRCHA, work here at Adobe San Francisco. Right now I'm working a lot on Photoshop, Illustrator side, and also Flash Pro. And I want to show you today some of the workflows that we're thinking of going forward in terms of designer and developer. So if you are a creative person, this is the place to be for you. All right, so I'm planning to cover these three tools very quickly today because I've got 20 minutes. And we will start with Illustrator. So speaking of Illustrator, I want to show you one of the plugins I've been working on. It's called DrawStrip. And DrawStrip basically converts the shapes you're working on into code. So the way it works is that it goes through all the nodes, on all the anchors, and also all the definitions of Bezier curves. And it can generate code for you in Objective-C, C++, JavaScript, SVG, and what else? Processing, and also just pure points that you want to use, for instance, for embroidery or things like that. So let me show you how it works. I'll switch back here. So if we want to grab DrawStrip, just go to DrawStrip PT, and you can download it. It's a plugin for Illustrator, and if you install it to Illustrator, this is what you will see. So it's a little panel here. You can make it, of course, bigger, so you can see more of the code. And basically, let me show you how it works. So I have some of these shapes here, and I can also draw a new shape, for instance, a star, very simply like that. And I'll take the star, I can make it smaller. Boom, generate code. I can also turn on live generation. So now if I scroll through these languages, I can actually see the star being generated in a different language. So right now it's JavaScript canvas. If I want Create.js tiny, this is how it looks like. I can also turn on rep mode so I can see the whole code. And I can also go to ActionScript free, processing, JSON, Bezier, array of points, and C++. So you can basically convert any kind of shape into drawing code that you can use, leverage in your game. So let me show you one of the examples of how you would leverage this, for instance, in Objective-C. So I'll grab, for instance, the star, or very simply, let's start with a rectangle because it's a super simple shape to render, and we'll open Xcode. I'll open my test here, resize the window a bit. And here we can see we have a function called drawRectangle, drawRect. And this function is called in every UI view, and you can override it. And if you override it, that means that you want to process your custom rendering inside your UI view on iPhone. I'll just pass the code here, copy-paste the code, run. And in the simulator, which is going up, we should see what it basically renders. Right? Perfect. So now I can switch between landscape and portrait, and it still works. So basically, any kind of shape you can convert into a drawable code, and that's a pretty powerful technique because right now it's a vector shape, so we can scale it, and it will still render crisp. So for instance, if you want to skin a button on iOS, there are two ways you can use like 9-slice scaling with bitmaps, or you can go with vectors. With vectors, again, you can scale it the way you want. It will still render crisp because it's using core graphics rendering. So let me show you how that would work. So for instance, I have this very artistic button here, and I'll copy the code that has been generated here into here. And you can see there's also the definition of the gradient inside the shape. And now, if we run it, we can see the button rendered here inside iOS in core graphics. So that's one nice thing about DrawStrip. The other nice thing about DrawStrip is that you can smoothly switch between languages. And if you're learning how to program in curve graphics or in JavaScript HTML canvas, and you know one of the languages, it's pretty easy to transfer yourself to learn a new language or a new rendering language using DrawStrip because you can easily switch between languages. So let me show you how that works, for instance, with JavaScript canvas. So we can select this shape, and I'll just turn on JavaScript canvas. We can see the whole code here. And one of the really powerful things about DrawStrip is that you can apply the calls on any kind of object. So for instance, here I want to apply it on an object called ctx dot. So now I write ctx dot, will generate me code, and this is basically an instance of 2D canvas in HTML5. So I'll go back here and I'll open brackets, an awesome code editor, open source code editor from Adobe, and we can go back here, and what I have here is just canvas. I'll get a context for 2D, and it's saved in an instance called ctx, and I'll just apply this object on the ctx rendering pipeline. So now we can just launch it in Chrome, and we can see the result immediately inside Chrome. So why going through HTML5 canvas, for instance? Well, first of all, some people will tell you, okay, so why don't you use SVG? Well, SVG is really powerful, and if you have a rendering engine inside your app that already supports SVG, then you should probably go with SVG. But sometimes SVG is like a bazooka, you know, for what you're trying to achieve. Because SVG needs a rendering engine, there is a huge specification around it, and sometimes you just want to draw a star on a button, you know. So why would you need to implement like a rendering engine to render just single element inside your app? So that's why this really comes handy, and especially, for instance, on iOS, it renders directly on the stage, so it's really powerful and super memory efficient. So what else we can do? I don't know if you guys are familiar with KRCHA. KRCHA is a set of frameworks, tools that you can use for building HTML5 games, and KRCHA is fully supported export pipeline from Flash Professional, and also it's supported in Illustrator using DrawStrip. So KRCHA is something like Flash, but for HTML5 canvas. So it's a very similar set of APIs that if you were building Flash games before, now it's really easy to use it for building HTML5 games. So the pipeline is similar, and the API is similar, so it's pretty easy to convert any kind of shape into KRCHA. But next to that, KRCHA has also some kind of, they have implemented some kind of innovation in terms of working with objects and with working with graphics pipeline. So they have something they call Tiny API, and instead of where you can see here, for instance, I'll generate code for this, you can see like fill style, fill rectangle, fill, and so on. And here, when we select the star, we can actually see like line 2, line 2, line 2, and a lot of lines too. And if you would have more complex object, you would go crazy with like hundreds of lines too, and Bezier curve too, and so on. So KRCHA has a very powerful technique for this, and you can basically pass a path. And here, this is the Tiny API. So this is like a stroke with S, then P with path, close path, and stroke. And basically this is the shape encoded into binary string. So instead of having this, which can really go crazy, you have just one line of code that does the job for you. So let's see what happens if we, for instance, want to render this or maybe this shape. So I'll just generate this. copy, and go back into here. And I'll just pass this on the object G, and we should see the object right over here. And again, the difference between working with Canvas, which is this one, and working with Create.js is quite huge, because with Canvas, you would have to write your own layer on top of Canvas that is basically maintaining all the shapes, all the objects, so you can access the instance by instance. But in Create.js, you already have things like stage, you have GS graphic, you have shapes, and you can basically work with each one of these objects separately. So for instance, I have a method called update, which is the loop. This is the game loop. And I can, for instance, change X position by 1. It will start moving, as you can see. I can change Y position by 2. It starts moving. And there is a live connection between brackets and Chrome, so I can keep coding, and it will keep changing what I'm coding with. So it's really super easy to prototype with shapes that you got from Illustrator and with brackets and Chrome combination in JavaScript Canvas. So that's a really powerful technique, very fast to work with, and so on. So what else we have here? I don't know if you guys are familiar with Open Frameworks. Open Frameworks is a quite powerful tool for creating visually immersive experiences with C++. So very fast, very cool, very similar API to Flash, and it's great for building like visual experiences on like shows and so on. So if we look at the documentation, you can see the API is again very similar. So it's a no-brainer to convert the shapes that we already have in Objective-C JavaScript into C++. So I'll go back here, select for instance this object, open frameworks simple. I'll delete this, generate, copy, go back into Xcode, empty example. I'll delete this. And again, you have a method called draw, and in the draw method, we just pass the object, run it, boom. And this is C++ app running or displaying the object that we have created in Illustrator. So we can start altering the object, for instance, this way. I'll just very quickly show you that it also supports Bezier curves, any kind of Bezier curve. Go back here, copy paste code, and again, we've got a shape immediately in our C++ program. So very easy to convert shapes into that. So a friend of mine asked me if I could create also an exporter that takes the shape and converts the shape into an array of points, because he would like to use the drawings that his wife is creating in an embroidery machine. And the embroidery machine is consuming basically raw array of points, and it understands the structure of this array of points, and then can start embroidery on your t-shirt or hoodie and so on. So basically, this way you can connect Illustrator into any kind of industrial use case. It can be a laser machine, it can be any kind of thing like that. So that's DrawStrip. If you want to check it out, go to DrawStrip, and here is everything you need. So just go download it and use it. Right, so that's DrawStrip. And the other thing I want to talk about is Flash Professional. Well, Flash Professional, what's happening with Flash Professional? Everybody asking. So right now, Flash Professional has been completely rewritten into 64-bit native Cocoa. And so basically, we completely rewrote the whole program. So it's way faster than before. And going forward, the strategy is to move Flash Professional into an asset creation tool, which is very open to any kind of platform, any kind of framework. And you can use it with C++, you can use it with Objective-C, you can use it with any kind of language, JavaScript, ActionScript as well. So before, Flash Professional was really the tool for creating visual stuff for SWFs, so for Flash. Right now, you can basically export out of Flash Professional into JavaScript, into anything. And I'll show you some of the techniques that we are implementing right now. So first of all, what you can do here is export spreadsheets. All right, so let me show you how to export spreadsheets. So I have this animation here from Chris Georginas. It's this little guy. And I have 3 animations, idle. This is idle animation. And this is jump animation, like that. And this is walk animation. So now, if I want to take it out of Flash, what do? Well, if I just hit Command Return, it will generate me a Swift file. Well, quite useless in C++ programming, right? If you're building a game for PlayStation. So what would you do? Well, one of the first things we have implemented in Flash is spreadsheet generation. So you can right-click, select these 3 animations, and go to Generate Spreadsheet. It'll basically generate frame-by-frame animation plus an XML file next to it that you can use to recompose the animation back. Simple thing. The problem with spreadsheets is that it loses a lot of information. This was done in vectors, first of all. Second of all, the animation is likely going to be choppy. It's going to be like 15 frames per second or 10 frames per second because we want to save some memory. And memory is really precious on devices like iPhone, Android, and so on. So the answer to that is that you can use dynamic spreadsheets, that you can load a Swift file into your program, parse it, and generate a spreadsheet for the device that you are on in the size that you want. For instance, if you are on a Retina device, you probably want to render everything twice as big as before. But the real answer and one of the most powerful techniques in here is skeletal animations, if you can do that. So, and I'll elaborate on that very soon. So, skeletal animations, how it works. We have a special panel in Flash Professional, and it's called Dragon Ball Design Panel. It's included with the Gaming SDK from Adobe. And what you can do here is you can just import animations here into this panel, and I'll just say OK. And we'll import all the animations into this panel. And I can resize it. I can show you 3 different animations. And you can see it's now 60 frames per second. The animation is really smooth. Before with spreadsheets, we had like 10, 15 frames per second. So this is super smooth. And the only thing that it generates is a texture, which is this one. And it contains only body parts. And it also exports an XML file, which contains all the information about the timeline. So if we go back here into here, we can see that all these keyframes that the designer designed are basically converted into XML. And this XML you can load into your program and process it on GPU. So super powerful technique, very fast, and very useful. So let me show you how it works. I'm using Citrus Engine for Flash, which is rendering everything on GPU. But you can also use any kind of engines like Cocos 2D, KRCHA, and so on. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to show you 2 different animations so you can understand the power of it. So right now we're using skeletal animations. So the object is composed. We have this guy running here. And you can see the animations, especially on the legs, you can see it's very smooth. Well, now we're gonna switch back here. I'm going to command this out and uncommand this. I will be using pre-generated spreadsheet, the first technique I showed you in Flash Pro. And you can see the animation is really choppy. So there is a slight difference, but a very significant difference. And it's not only the biggest problem here. This is one of the problems. The other problem is that if you want to use skeletal animations, you get a huge power of multiple animations because you're still using body parts where you have 2 legs, 2 hands, one head, and so on. And basically, you can have hundreds of animations, but you will still have 1 texture. So uploading this 1 texture to GPU is all the things you need on the GPU. With spreadsheets, you would need like 1 gigabyte of memory. And who has that on iOS or Android? So that's really powerful. Another powerful technique with this is, and I need to really hurry up because I don't have any more time, is switching body parts. So with spreadsheets, you have one spreadsheet and it's frame by frame. Here you can actually use a great technique, which is switching bones. So you can switch different bones in real time while you're animating the character. So definitely check it out. It's open source on GitHub, so you can also recreate your own panel. You can recreate the way it exports data and so on. And right now it's XML. I believe the guys are adding support for JSON as well. They're also adding support for JavaScript, which is coming very soon, and so on. So that's called Dragon Bones panel for Flash, and it's being done by Adobe China. So that's it. Other thing I want to show you is metadata. So we've added metadata support inside Flash Pro, and this is also super powerful. So let me just quickly show you what it means. I have elements on my stage, and I can add metadata key value pairs to the object on the stage, to any kind of object. It can be shape, it can be movie clip, it can be whatever it is. And all this metadata can be exported outside. So if I look back here and open this metadata here, I can see jump height, acceleration, and so on. So you can basically add more information to the graphics that you're producing as a graphic designer or artist for the programmer. So when he loads it in, he can already see how is the document structured, what these elements have as an information, and so on. So this metadata came with Flash CC. There are two things with Flash Pro, and we'll move on to Photoshop, are toolkit for Dart. So you can basically publish for Dart, and you can also publish for RayJS. So toolkit for RayJS. So I'll just publish this. OK, override. And this is animation I did in Flash, and now we have it in Canvas. So there's no Flash anymore. This is HTML5 Canvas. In KRCHA, and you can keep working with it. I don't know, inspect the element. Let me show you one thing here. So stage, scale X, stage, scale Y equals 1.5. Now we'll basically resize the stage. And as you can see, the object is in vectors. So it will still be in vectors. It won't blur because the rendering inside KRCHA can do also vector rendering. So quite powerful. Definitely check it out. Very cool to use. And last thing I want to show you, because I'm running out of time, is generating web assets outside Photoshop. So this is one of the biggest things we're working on right now in this pipeline between designer and developer. So as you know, I mean, this is the website right now, but imagine it's a game. It can be a level for Angry Birds. And designer designs something, and the coder comes to the thing, and he starts to recreate everything you already did as a designer in Photoshop. Well, what happens is this border is 2 pixels instead of 1 pixel. This color is a little bit off than what the designer meant. You know, this is not 36 pixel font. This is 30 pixel font. You know, and so on. There are a lot of problems in the pipeline. You know, and sometimes, and well, I think very often the coder doesn't see the problem there. So what happens here is it's completely off. So how do we solve that? So first of all, you can generate web assets, and that's a pretty powerful thing, because what happens here is if you want to take all these assets out, you have to basically go, copy this image, select it, copy it, new image, boom, there, save. You know, and with every single image, you know, this can take up to hours. So what I do here is I go here and I say generate web assets. And what happens here is if I go back into my demo here and open this, we can see there is a folder created with all the assets exported out of Photoshop. So this is not there yet, but this is coming soon. And it's a fully programmed pipeline. So right now it has exported all the assets from my website right over here. Well, and that's not everything, because what's really cool here is that the generation is happening live. And what it means is that if I have this logo here, and I change blending options, and I really hope it's going to work, it will change into red. Isn't it amazing? I think so. So this is just the first step. There is a lot more to that, because this is completely written with Node.js, so you can completely customize the generation pipeline from Photoshop. It can generate a structure, it can generate HTML, CSS for you, and yeah, you get a complete structure, complete DOM from Photoshop into any kind of document. You can even generate Word document if you want. But yeah, and with that, I'm done. Thank you so much.
Okay, well, thank you very much. Well, that was very impressive. I'm sold. So the question for me is, how can I try these things out? Do you have any special offers or deals, or how people can try out these new tools?
So this is right now in the process of development, but sure, if you ping me, we can talk.
Okay, so if you have any questions, please raise your hand and I'll put the microphone over. You've
Everybody's shocked?
Stunned them all with a oh no, we have a couple of questions.
And Desire, how's it going?
How's it going? All right. Are you guys working on anything to make custom panels, custom extensions in Flash less terrible of a workflow?
Yes. We're working, so all the panels in the, well, you will be able to use HTML to write panels and JavaScript and CSS. So if you want to start, well, right now, I cannot talk for Flash Pro specifically, but I can talk for Photoshop. So what we did is support, well, one of my colleagues wrote a plugin for brackets that allows you to convert HTML panels into Photoshop. And basically, before, if you wanted to write a panel for Photoshop, you either use C++ or Flash. Right now, you can use HTML as well. Well, you will be able to use. So I can't recall it right now, but brackets, panels, Photoshop, HTML, blah, blah. Yes. So this is it. Creative Cloud Extension Builder for brackets. And if you want, you can check it out. And with that, you can write HTML5 JavaScript panels for Photoshop. And I believe support for Flash Pro is coming, but I'm not 100% sure. So, but we have been working on JSFL support, or better JSFL support inside Flash Pro, because we believe the accessibility of our tools is huge, and especially in Flash Pro, we want people to customize the pipelines, because everybody has a different pipeline in different companies, you know, and you want to take something like I showed you today, and you want to adjust it for your specific workflow, because maybe you want 1 pixel border around the image that is generated from Photoshop, or you want the animation generated not in XML but in JSON, you know, and things like that. So it's really important that we provide these things to you the way that you can customize it. So this pipeline I showed in Photoshop is going to be open sourced fully, and also the Dragon Bones is open sourced. So yeah.
One more question. May not be a quick question, so you may not be able to answer it, but the Photoshop export web assets that you showed, is that, how much control do you have over do you have to build your layers in certain ways or tag your layers? Or?
Yeah, you have. So right now, but again, you know, as I said, it's fully customizable, but right now, what you have to do is you have to name the layer like PNG, .png, and or .jpg. But here, for instance, we have the whole navigation bar. So if I change the name to navigation.png and switch quickly back here, I can see the navigation PNG is just created. You know, so and this is live communication. You can turn it off, and then again, if you turn it on, it will go through the changes that you did. But that's one of the settings that you can use. You can also define like add to X and so on. You can define quality of the export image and so on, and the scale as well. So.
Well,
but these are.
We're going to kick you off stage. We'll get the next president. If any questions, please
Yeah,
keep
sure.
asking to Tom. He'll be out in the corridor. So
Thank you so much.